Live. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's Discovery Scanner. We have a very special show for you indeed. But before that, I must welcome my first person on stream, which is the wonderful, the lovely, the man who makes me very jealous of hair, Mr. Bruce Garrido. Welcome, Bruce. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much, Arthur. I'm very happy to be here. We've got a great stream for you today, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. You have appeared in droves.
Yes, there's lots of people.
There are a couple of reasons for that, I imagine. Partly because of the drops, but also largely, no doubt, because of our very special guest and the contents of our stream today. So we're excited to share lots of things with you.
Yeah. So there's a few things. We're going to do some housekeeping. I can see some chats were being deleted, but before I came on stream, two things to note. One, I won't be checking chat. I'm going to leave that to Bruce this evening, mainly because, as you may or may not know, when I'm in charge of streams, things tend to go wrong. So they are taking things away from me, which is sensible, because the more things I have, the more chance there are that I'll break them. So Bruce will keep an eye on chat tonight. Also, we have very zealous bots in for our chat, so please try and avoid using capital letters. I know we're seeing some messages of support coming in. That's really cool, but unfortunately if they're in caps, they're going to get deleted, so feel free to resend your messages, but please use sentence case. Bruce is so still on my camera. Bruce, can you move around, animate a little bit? You look like a painting. It's great. There we go.
An oil painting or a finger painting?
More like a paint by numbers. So we're going to hurry up and get to the main part of the show and our guest, but obviously there are a few things to cover off. So we have a few special treats for you. Obviously there are Twitch drops. So Bruce, do you want to explain how the Twitch drops work and what's on offer tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. In the meanwhile, I'm hearing from a birdie that Arthur's audio is a little bit low, so while he tries to turn himself up a bit, I will explain the Twitch drop situation. So Twitch drops are active. I think this will be the third time that we're doing them. So simply by watching the stream, you're actually already contributing towards earning the Twitch drops. There are going to be 3 in total. You may have seen these before if you've been present for our previous Twitch drop activated streams. We're giving away some vibrant purple paint jobs, purple SRV and SLFs, as well as purple weapons and engine colors. They're going to be dropped in 15-minute increments. So to get the first bunch, watch 15 minutes, and then at half an hour, and then at 1 hour, the second and third drops will be awarded. Even though you are earning as you watch, you'll have to sign up and link your accounts on our page. !drops, which I see a lot of people spamming in chat, should link you to the page, but I'm going to read it out as well just because chat is going by a bit quickly. I'll remind you guys of this later on as well. Twitch.frontierstore.net will take you to the page where you can link your accounts so that you can claim your rewards. That's about the size of it, really.
Cool. So a couple more things. That's not all. I decided that wasn't enough for tonight's stream and the guests that we have on. So with some more goodies for you all, I have reached into the depths of my goodie bag and found 3 sets of Odyssey themed earbuds, and I will be giving those away on stream throughout tonight's stream. And also there's going to be a chance to win a Razer headset, and I will discuss how we do that later on. So stay tuned. There's a lot to go through. But with no further ado, let me flick screens and hope that everything I planned out works here. Please stay working. And there we are. Welcome, the wonderful Dr. K. Ross. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know how super busy you are, but thank you for joining.
It is absolutely my pleasure. Thank you very much for the invitation, and hello, everyone. How are you doing?
Awesome. Well, look, there's a lot of questions. We obviously, once we knew we had some of your time, Kay, we went a bit crazy on our forums asking people for questions. We're like, look, getting dev time is really, really difficult. We know how hard you guys are all working. So it was a case of, look, let's get the questions in. Let's ask as many as we can do tonight. And whatever we don't answer tonight, whatever once we put in the forums, we will do our very best to answer in a follow-up post tomorrow. So if there's stuff that you put in the forum that we don't answer tonight, we will try our very best to answer tomorrow. Some of the questions may not be specific for K or K's team, so we'll try and get into the relevant teams. I did have a look through a quick perusal of the forum, so I will try and get those to the relevant teams. But let's get into everything. So, Kay, obviously I got to speak to you the first time since working on Frontier yesterday, and I was a little bit starstruck because I did say to you, I see you guys as like the rock stars of gaming. Like you go and make the cool stuff happen. So whenever I get a chance to talk to developers and clever people, I get a little bit tongue-tied. So thank you for yesterday, and I put together a little sort of series of questions. So for those that don't know who you are and what you do, Kate, can you give us a brief overview?
That's a very good question, and I'll try to remember what words are. So yes, my name is Kay Ross. I've been working at Frontier for about 8 years and on Elite Dangerous throughout the entire time. And my job title is Principal Programmer. So I type all the codeies, not all of them, but quite a few codie codes. And my role, however, is the co-lead of the render programming team, which doesn't explain why I'm here talking planets and whatnot. We just got a very special render team on the Elite Dangerous project, in that not only is this looking after the engine, which does the rendering, and the shaders, which put all the nice effects on things, but also with my past, with my physics background, we also look after parts of Stellar Forge, which generates, well, the environment you're exploring.
Don't be shy, Kay. It's the galaxy. You built the galaxy, all right? This is I shouldn't be in charge of interviews. This is what I'm saying. Like you're so humble about the work you all do, and you've literally built a one-to-one scale of the Milky Way, which I find absolutely incredible. So that's 8 years as well, purely on Elite Dangerous. So you've seen from start to now, really. Can you talk a little bit about that journey? Like how has that been, seeing Elite Dangerous, I guess, from concept to where it is now, right? Because this is, I guess, the biggest update that's coming with Odyssey. It's without a pun, it's a long leap from day one's first concept, right?
Yeah, it's when we all started out, we didn't know we'd get this far and do this many additional things. It was originally a Kickstarter for a rebirth of the original Elite game. It had nothing to do with walking on planets, anything like that. But here we are. Yeah, it's phenomenal to see. Oh, can we just keep pushing it? Can we just keep going? We can. It's been a lot of work. It's taken its time, but it is fantastic, and I'm still excited to be here working on it.
And that's, I think, for me as a fan of the game, as well as being privileged enough to work with yourself in a very limited capacity, obviously in what I'm doing now, but obviously with the community, to see how far the game has come since it was first sort of created and where it's going, and all the stuff that you've managed to do in 8 years is absolutely jaw-dropping, and it's very, very exciting. So you mentioned the render team. They sound like a really cool team. Who are the render team? And I guess the second part of that question is, what does being a principal programmer and the lead of the render team mean working on Odyssey?
Right. So first of all, the current team, the current render programming team, consists of, now watch me forget a name and get a bunch of fire tomorrow. So it's myself, the other co-lead, Alkis Lakakis. There's Tom Wiggins, who's been on the project almost as long as I have. If not as long, must be around the same time. There's Lucy Buckby. There is Matt Rowe. Mark Vince has been helping us out. And have I forgotten? And of course, Hazel Quantock, fantastic shader programmer, very, very knowledgeable maths person.
So it's quite, I imagine, with the work that you'll have to do. I mean, you said maths there. You do your doctorate is in physics. Am I going to get this right? Please correct me, because I'm going to get this horribly wrong. But is that correct?
Oh yes, yeah. So I'll chat a little bit about what I did, where I came from, and why I'm doing sciencey stuff. And then, because I just realized I forgot to answer the second part of your last question, I'll go into that about what we do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, please. Yes, far away.
Okay, so for those who don't know, it looks like there's a few in the chat who might remember me. So yeah, I wasn't always a video game programmer. I did start out as a researcher in particle physics. So I did an undergraduate master's in astrophysics and cosmology before making the swap to particle physics. And I did some work situated at Fermilab in the US, which is in Illinois. It's a bit like what CERN is, but a different lab site. I was looking into the differences between matter and antimatter. And, you know, little questions like, why are we here? Why haven't we all been annihilated by the antimatter in the universe and whatnot? But then the Kickstarter for Elite Dangerous came along, and yeah, just had to try my luck, and they were very generous and let me start. So I started off as a gameplay programmer, but with my background and with what they were doing, of course, they wanted to generate the Milky Way for the game to be in. So that's leveraging things I remember from university, the skills I had for large-scale data analysis for verifying what we were doing. And yeah, we're starting bit by bit, making a system to generate the Milky Way.
That's quite a leap from sort of gameplay stuff to, oh, by the way, whilst you're here, could you perhaps build us the Milky Way? I'd love to have been in a fly on the wall when that conversation was had. We love the work you're doing, but we kind of want you to do something a bit bigger. Could you build us the galaxy? Was it kind of like that? Or were you kind of like, look, I can do this, and this is...
Oh, it was a different time back then. Newer on the project, some of the programmers did various things, moved around a bit. I did a little bit of multiplayer stuff back then. I did a little bit of physics, a little bit of all sorts before we all settled into our roles and how the team as a whole, not just what would become my team, but all of the teams and how they worked well together and what their strengths were. And yeah, so I ended up, with generating the Milky Way. How do we represent it? How do we navigate it? So I did work on the galaxy map, and then from there it was more graphical stuff and render stuff, and yeah, ended up making planets and being in charge of the render team.
I mean, I guess I've got to ask the question, like, where do you start when someone says, I want you to build the galaxy? Now, we're going to go and talk about the Stellar Forge in a little while and stuff like that. I guess the Stellar Forge has to be created in order, that comes first, right? We talk about chicken and egg. I guess the Stellar Forge has to be the first thing you build, right?
Right. So, yeah, the Stellar Forge is the framework in which we input some bits of data and we get out all of the space stuff that we want. And so we build this framework with what raw data we have on hand to feed it, and knowing what we need out in the end, and it's connecting the dots, as it were.
And so, what sort of data would you feed into the Stellar Forge, and how? And so, I guess I'm jumping ahead, Kay. Sorry, I'm being rubbish. What is the Stellar Forge? I guess for layman terms, like for people like me, what is the Stellar Forge? If you could explain it as best you could.
Stellar Forge is the game engine which takes some raw data about the layout, the mass distribution, the age regions of our Milky Way from the data we have.
Yep.
And the equations known about stellar lifetimes, radii, and how planetary disks are formed and all of that. It takes all of that data and it steps through to procedurally and deterministically offer at the end a physically plausible series of star systems which represent our Milky Way.
That is... Well, I mean, I'm wrapping my head around what's been. I mean, that information. I think that's information. Where does that come from? That is that all like established research and stuff that you feed into it?
Oh, yeah.
So this isn't. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Research papers.
Yes. So that then churns out these star systems. Now, when I spoke to you yesterday, you sort of said it does it on sort of different levels. So it starts at the top and sort of works its way down. So do you want to talk through sort of how that end result sort of works?
Sure. I'll try to keep it concise.
Imagine if you're talking to me. Imagine I know absolutely nothing.
So the way that it generates, and the most straightforward and best performing way of generating this vast amount of data around you, is to start big and then refine and get smaller and smaller and smaller. So it starts off generating the properties of an entire sector of space. This is a huge cube, huge block full of stuff. And then go through and calculate how many instances of the largest stellar bodies it can have in it, things like nebulae, supermassive stars. And then within that sector, there are 8 subsectors using the leftover materials. I don't know if you can hear that sound or not. That was on my side. I think it's just the microphone. We're fine.
It's fine.
Don't mind me, I'm
It's
rambling.
Yeah.
I mean,
okay, we're all working from home. It's absolutely fine. It's absolutely fine.
Fantastic. Yeah. So then there's 8 layers of concentric cubes going all the way down to one which is just 10 light years by 10 light years by 10 light years, and it's making the smallest things of red dwarfs or whatnot. So after it's made these concentric cubes worth of these star systems, if you want to go visit or get the information from any one of them, we can then go and generate the child objects of that body. So it will generate a protoplanetary disk, which would have formed around the star. It can step through the epochs of time and calculating where stable orbits would be, the kind of matter accumulating on these orbits, and then you get the different classifications of planets from that. And yeah, it's
wow. I mean, for me, that's just incredible. To see, well, to hear you describing how it works is fantastic. Now, I've got a lot more questions actually, and a lot of questions from our forum posts and stuff. But before I do that, I want to give away a set of earbuds, Odyssey earbuds. I happen to have a case for them here I had sent through, so people might have seen them. I'll put the camera is somewhere there. So these are quite nice. These are, yeah, they are in there. There you go. They are Razer earbuds. Oh, I can't even open them up on screen. So I'm going to give away 3 of these on the stream today. But I think this time, if you just put into chat, I think Bruce, ! Stellar Forge.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
So if you want to just start popping in ! Stellar Forge, and then we'll come back to this and we'll pick a winner. So it's the first time we're gonna give one of those away, and I'll probably chuck in a water bottle and some goodies as well, and I'll get those out to you as soon as I can. So that's that. So that's. I mean, that's a lot of work that Stellar Forge is doing. I mean, I mean, I keep saying this, and I've said this on many streams, Kay. Like, sometimes I forget that Elite Dangerous is a 1-to-1 scale representation of the Milky Way. And every time I go into meetings and I make suggestions, I'm quite rightly told, like, Arthur, it's not as simple as just changing one thing, because it's changing everything, right? So we make adjustments. I guess part of what the work you do is you have to make sure it's right for the entire galaxy. I mean, talk about pressure. I mean, is there pressure on that? Is that a hard thing to do?
Oh, for sure. And yeah, can you just change this? It's always well, it's a bit of a meme, but the butterfly effect thing, that's very much in play there. If you change one thing which affects the Milky Way in terms of any distribution of matter in it, or age, or a bit of temperature here or there, and then everything in the sector can change. You've got to be really careful.
Yeah, and I guess because it's so vast, sometimes that change isn't that apparent straight away, right? Because it's such a vast sort of area to look at. Now, we did have a chat, and I did ask you yesterday, because I do find these stories funny, and I was like, can you describe something funny that's happened with the Stellar Forge where maybe some data was inputted wrong, and you told me about the spiky planet. Do you want to go into a bit more details about how that happened and what that meant?
Oh, for sure. So, well, to jump ahead a little bit, that's issue where development side made me laugh, because of not solving but having to deal with something called the hairy ball theorem. And that if you have a sphere or an object, or sometimes it's called the hairy dog theorem, and it's spherical and you've got hair pointing out all over it, and you want to comb it all smooth all the way around it. You can't. There's going to be a seam somewhere, and that's mathematically the case in a shape of that many dimensions like that. However, in generating the surfaces of planets, both through Horizon and beyond, and now here in Odyssey, things can be sensitive, shall we say, to input data. And if you get a value in a scale wrong, what you can end up with, what I have ended up with, is essentially a very hairy planet. Very hairy planet to show the very frustrating hairy ball theorem. So tiny, tiny, tiny spikes everywhere, and it looks really fuzzy. It's a very, very expensive way of rendering fur, though, so we don't recommend it.
That's. I mean, I think stuff like that is great. And yes, sorry, I did jump ahead. It wasn't Stellar Forge. That was the planetary stuff, which I guess is a nice segue, which is intended. That was what I intended with by my mistake, Kay. So thank you for saving me. So I guess we're moving on to planetary tech, and we're going to go into like what this means for Odyssey. But obviously, so now we have our galaxy, and it's filled with all these wonderful sort of stellar bodies and planets and moons and such. But obviously they've got to look the part, right? They've got to see that, if this is a volcanic world or a rocky world or an icy world, etc., etc. So how does that? What happens next? I guess because we're kind of I kind of want this to the questions I'm asking are kind of like I want to see how we make the cake. Like, so how does this work? So we've built our galaxy now. How do we go about icing it? I guess with the analogy.
So shall I direct it specifically at changes in Odyssey for how this works?
I think the chat would probably be interested to know what sort of changes we're doing for Odyssey. I've got a suspicion, but yes, go for it.
The last time I did a talk on this, I briefly went over how planets begin not as spheres but as cubes, and there's patches which make up the cube, square patches. Everything gets spherified and an offset generated for it to represent terrain. And now for horizons, that terrain is generated entirely mathematically. And there was a lot of effort and a lot of computation which goes into representing the kind of shape a hill makes, or the kind of shape a canyon makes, just using maths.
Mm-hmm.
And to get that more and more accurate, you need to throw more and more maths at it. It just becomes not the most optimal way of doing it. And so for Odyssey, there is an entirely different approach to calculating what these offsets from this cube are to make up the terrain. And it's again taking the view from you start big and you refine small. So a planet has all sorts of stellar forge data associated with it. So things like the gravitational stress its crust goes under, the proportion of its depth, which is crust or magma or core, the stresses it's under, how cratered it would be, things like if it's tidally locked, or if it's got some ice caps, or if it's got some ring snow, which is when ice particles from a nearby ring system end up falling to the surface of a planet. So you get all these little bits of data. And from those, and from the general knowledge of what the planet's made up of, we decide its top layer information, its top resources, and that is describing general shapes and regions of interest across the entire surface, and the general types of formations which will be there, if they're things that would make the terrain more chaotic, things that would make the terrain upwell, things that would make flat plains or basins, things like that.
Yeah.
And then from that information, from stochastically sampling that information, if you want nice fancy words there, stochastically sampling.
I won't try and say that 3 times in a row. I will definitely fail.
Yeah. The next layer of information goes down, and we're talking 30, 60, 100 kilometers worth of sections of terrain which are now generated offline through processes to generate actual terrain shapes that we know how they formed, rather than just purely going at it mathematical on our own now. So we have these resources which represent the shapes of the types of features that we'd want to generate in the first place. And then we've got some stochastic sampling and blending to put those together, not only in the right places across the planet, but now also rotated correctly, so they're flowing into each other, flowing in the right direction, which makes quite a difference in the visual quality of a scene.
I'm going to flick to a content screen and just flick through some screens. I think most of these have been out already, just to have so people can have a look through whilst we carry on talking. But I mean, I've been very lucky, and Bruce will attest to this. But we've been going in doing some work on a particular project we hope to get out pretty soon, and we've got to see this planetary tech, this new planetary tech firsthand. And whilst we're only seeing it in sort of pre-alpha stages, the change is vastly different. And I think one of the things I've always said is I'm always honest with chat when I talk to chat. And I remember when I first saw the trailer, and I had this conversation with yourself, Kay, yesterday. When I first saw the trailer, I was like, yeah, it looks great, but it can't look that good. And Bruce and I, honestly, the first time we saw it in motion, we sort of sat opposite each other and just stared, and we're like, this looks like an entirely separate game. I mean, the work that you and your team have put together is phenomenal. Like, it is just, it changes absolutely everything with regards to these planets. They look absolutely stunning. And we'll go into a bit more detail about some bits I know you want to cover off, but I honestly can't. I know these pictures are stunning, but they just don't do it justice. Like when you're flying over these planets. So would you say that what you've done for Odyssey is I guess a more accurate approach, or as accurate as you can be because again, I want to stress, it's like no one has the time to go in and handcraft every planet, right? Because there are literally billions of planets out there to do. So this is the best we could do, I guess.
Yes, yeah. So we've got these layers going down from the top level to the 20 or 30 kilometer down to the couple of kilometer down to the getting your eye on the planet. So we are trying to get the detail in all the way down, and also represented from a distance. You can see that detail from further out, which makes a lot of difference there. I suppose to kind of answer what you were saying, to describe more about why things changed, is the system we made for Horizons was good for Horizons. It did its job. I'm very proud of what the team and I did and the results you could get from it. And I really enjoy, still to this day, having a look at the screenshots on Twitter and lurking in people's streams and seeing what they're seeing. But to go forward with Odyssey, and not just Odyssey, but to go forward beyond whatever comes next for Odyssey, whatever classifications, whatever types of worlds, I wanted to make sure we get a system in place which is robust and expandable enough to essentially do all those without having to do another remake of any of the tech. So that's why it's changed, and that's why we've got this cascading detail all the way from the top down to the bottom there.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned it there, and it's something we discussed yesterday in our chat, Kay, and I was obviously like, and I guess it's one of the first things I said on stream. Elite Dangerous at first was, we're just going to be in space and we look at these planets and these places from afar, and then it was, well, with Horizons we can now land on these planetary bodies and we can drive around them, and now we're like, well, actually now you can get out and you can walk around them and you can explore them and you can find things to examine and all these wonderful things. And I've definitely not looped my video, so I'm going to go back to us. There we go. So I guess it must be really, you must be really proud to see that evolution from the initial role of, hey Kay, can you build us the galaxy, to now like, hey, now we want to walk around this entire galaxy. So, and one of the things that I want to talk about there, because obviously it will change. This tech is going to go into, now I'm right in saying this, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I do have a habit of getting things wrong here. It goes into every landable planet, right? So every planet you can land on, this tech is going to be applied to. Is that right?
That is correct.
Cool.
So all of the worlds that you could land on before and the new ones opening up, they will be using this approach, and the old surfaces we can't represent them in this new approach, but we want to use this new tech, this new variety, because you're going to get a larger variety in terrains from this and materials and whatnot. So yeah, they'll all be using this.
Yeah. So I mean, we're obviously very conscious. We do a lot of stuff with a lot of our racing communities and stuff like that, and obviously things will change. But I am really excited to see what comes with the new tech. Like I honestly can't put into words. Like, we've seen it in some of the trailers and stuff like that, and we'll have more to show you on that very, very shortly. But the change is night and day. Like when you look at the two, like playing Elite Dangerous it stands now, and rightly so. It's stunning. Like I'm still blown away. Every single week we do set of screenshots, and half the set of screenshots will be stuff that's set on a planetary surface, and it still looks incredible and stunning, and the vistas are amazing. Sense of scale. I cannot wait to see what comes with Odyssey and just what people do with Odyssey, and I'm particularly want to see. And this is just a personal thing for me. I've been very lucky to play around with Odyssey and in the tenuous atmospheres and how beautiful those look. But I also, and I wasn't allowed to do this, but I definitely did move us to another planet which didn't have a tenuous atmosphere, and it was just. It also looked incredible. Like everything in it looks just, like I said, like a new game. One of the questions I asked you, and I guess it's how I would feel. You get to create all of this cool stuff, or certainly have a large part to play in it, Kay, and the galaxy at large. Is it heartbreaking that you only get to see these worlds in a snapshot, right? Like I can visit my favorite planet time and time again, but you kind of have to be like, I've made this now, I move on to the next thing, and you never get to see that particular planetary body when it aligns perfectly with its star and like the shadows hit a correct formation on the land. Does that make you sad, or do you take pleasure from other people like sort of exploring it?
Yeah, there's a wide range of feelings regarding that. There's the oh gosh, can we test every single possible combination that you might find in the galaxy? Make sure it's just right, or yeah, how do we get a good representation of that? Or yeah, the lighting here looks great. What does it look like in 6 months, a year, 2 years time? What happens when this other orbit's coming by? What happens during an eclipse there? And we don't get to see all of that, but what I do get to see is, as I say, your screenshots on Reddit and on Twitter and everywhere else I lurk. I do spend a bunch of time lurking in elite players' streams, not for stroking one's ego, but just for exactly what you said there. The joy of seeing them discover something, or the interest, or the that's new, that's interesting. I get to feel that as well, as if I'm playing along, even though I've seen that world in a different context a while ago. So
I think it's a very personal thing, right? I mean, I think it was the last stream I was on. I was like, the moments people share in Elite, and which is by and large, Kay, what you're responsible for. They're always very personal moments because it's personable to that person at that time. So they might arrive at a certain star system or a planetary body at a certain time that's unique to them, and only they will share that moment. And I think that's what makes Elite so special. And I think obviously the planets and those moments are, I can't thank you and the team enough for providing such an accurate simulation that you have done. That is wonderful in that sense. Going into some more questions in terms of, like, we spoke about the evolution from Elite to Horizons and now obviously onto Odyssey. In terms of the changes that you're making for planetary tech, if you had to say, are they more? I don't have the blessing of great words that you do. Are they the changes we're making now? Are they more considerable than we did for Horizons, or about the same? Or is it just the same but different?
It's the same but different, because we're talking a lot of the planet tech itself, but there is also the second half of what my team does, which is the rendering, the lighting, which is also one of the things largely changed for Odyssey. Which
awesome. And can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure thing. But in terms of quantifying the change, so Horizons was a fantastic and heavy undertaking to introduce full-scale planets, something people don't tend to do because full-scale planets are hard. But we did it, and
galaxies are hard, Kane. You did that.
A lot of work. But when it comes to Odyssey, so we got a framework there of how to make a planet, how to make a surface. But the process in which the shape of the surface is decided, the the handling of the resources which go into it have to stream in, stream out, how they're combined, and the systems for making all the choices about how they combine. That's also a large undertaking. It has, it hasn't just been a weekend or two's of work. It's been a long undertaking. And
was it daunting when you first looked at it? Were you excited by the challenge, or was it like, well, there's a lot of work here?
It was this is a great opportunity. We can really, let's say, make those changes I was thinking of before to make this expandable to more and more afterwards. And I was excited to see what could happen with the code side and the art side working together to create these assets which are blended and selected for planets. And it was exciting. It's been tough. It's been many things to calculate and figure out, but yeah, it's been good.
We spoke a little bit about the lighting and the bits that are changing for Odyssey. Can you go into some details about like, sort of what the tech is and what sort of things players can look forward to?
Mm-hmm. Yes, just because I want to give good credit to the render people that I've worked with over the years in that, to provide the visuals going forward, to not only that, but to provide a consistency, shall we call it, in how lighting behavior works. We've made quite a few changes on the render engine side as well. Just to list a few examples, we now have some per pixel lit particles. We have more shadowed spotlights working together. And we also have, finally, materials which are, I know it's a standard and a well-touted term, PBR based, so the physically based materials. They have information about how rough they are, how they should respond to light. And then if we feed in these realistic lighting values that we have now, things just work right, and they work together and they work consistently. And that's part of the reason of why I think the new planets are also looking very nice as well, in that we have the combination of lighting from the atmosphere, from the star there, from any light you have personal about one's body going around, and everything works just right. So you mentioned a little while ago in this stream that you went to a planet which didn't have an atmosphere. Mm-hmm. It looked interesting as well, because the lighting on an atmosphered and non-atmosphered world is different. You don't have the atmospheric contribution as much bounce light as you may say, and it's a slightly starker look. And I just love that we're able to see that now in our engine. So not only are we generating Milky Way as accurately as we can, we're also getting the looks down.
Yeah, I mean, as to go back to my own personal experience of it, like Bruce and I, obviously because we're running on, and I will stress this to chat, we are running on an engine that is not even close to being alpha, so it is very, very early engine, but we get to go into the little menus, and they actually let me type stuff into menus, which is very dangerous. That's why they put us on a separate machine. We can't even, but we have to run the lighting mod, and you can see it before the lighting stuff goes in and after. And although the game looks stunning, lighting it's like the icing on the cake. Like it really is. It sort of it's the mood. It just sets the mood of the scene that you're in, and it really does make a huge difference. So I mean, the teams that are doing that are incredible, and you touched on it again, and I keep stressing this, and I will keep stressing it because it's really important. You're doing this on a galactic scale. You're not just doing it for like, we're going to do it for the room you're in. It's like, we're going to do it for everything within a one-to-one scale of the galaxy. So, and it's absolutely incredible. Now, we had a chat about different planetary types. Now, I asked that, like, I guess it's a smart question for me, but it's kind of a dumb question for you. But I was like, okay, how many types of planets are there? And you quite rightly said, well, there's like classes and then subclasses and combinations of classes. So but then I asked you, I think, and you gave me the answer I think excited me the most when I said, do you know roughly how many landable planets there are in Odyssey? And I said, like, is it in the millions? And the quote you gave me, I'd love to hear you say it again because it got me really excited. How many would you say in Odyssey?
I think I just said the word billions, but now I'm panicking in case I forgot. That's sad.
No, you did. And that's what makes me the most excited to see, because obviously I think and it's in one of our previous QA sessions with Odyssey going in and the tenuous atmospheres. I think in the snapshot of the galaxy we looked at statistically, there was 20% more landable planets in it. So I mean, there's so much there for people to discover. I think looking at the established planets that we have and the new tech that's going in, not only just to discover but to rediscover, like to go back and have a look at planets they've visited and see like just how amazing they now look with this new tech and stuff like that. One of the other things that I wanted to talk to you about was some of the planet types now get a little bit more extra love. Kay, we were talking about sort of rocky, icy, and now well represented. So do you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah. So the planet classes are what I imagine many are familiar with, the things that you see in the galaxy map, the system map, how it categorizes them. These categories are, like many boxes in life, human-made and somewhat arbitrary dividers between them. We say this fits into this box, this fits into this box. So those are classifications, all that exploration data for those particular types. That's still there. But the range of planets, the range of surfaces, the range of information out there is so much wider than those course classifications. Sorry, I just got distracted because someone in chat said D0. Someone in chat knows the experiment I used to work on.
Oh wow, that's amazing. It wasn't a top secret government experiment, was it, Kay? Because you sound like you're smart enough.
It was a government lab.
I'll ask no more questions.
But where was that? Come on, train of thought. Oh yes, so the classifications which get some more love. So with horizons, the vague landable classifications were rocky, metal rich, high metal content, rocky ice, and icy. However, there were two main noise graph. Now, a noise graph is the collection of nodes that we put together using that old maths I talked about to generate the shape of the terrain. And there was two main ones used. And so rocky icy ended up using the icy graph, and the icy graph uses icy. The rest all used a rocky graph. And due to that, the rocky ice worlds were somewhat not distinct from icy ones. However, in this new system where we are deciding which resources for generating terrain go to which planets, depending on all of their different parameters, the rocky ice worlds are going to have a much more distinct look. They're going to have their specific terrain and materials on them, and they'll finally be represented much nicer, which warms my heart a little.
I mean, I think when I looked at it, and again, I think it comes into the lighting as well, Kay, like when we were looking at, Bruce and I were running around on a rocky, icy world, and you can actually see the particles of light being reflected because it's a rocky, icy world. And obviously, we have seen some of the screenshots I've just popped on again, just for people to take a look at. I think the way these worlds now look and are reflective of what they actually are is incredible, and I think players will be really excited to see that. So I guess before we move on any further, I want to talk about the headset competition. Now we have a Razer. Now Bruce, I can't remember the name of the Razer headset, but it's a Razer headset that works on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. So this works for everyone. It's a really cool Razer headset. I want to give one away to someone. But how I want to do this is we're going to run this competition, I guess, until I'll announce it next Thursday. So a week. Now I'm springing this on the community team, so sorry guys, but this is what's going to happen. So I want people to submit screenshots of their favorite planets that they've landed on in Odyssey, in Elite Dangerous ahead of the changes of Odyssey. And I want to share them on social media with the hashtag. Simply says, I don't know, my favorite planet. And that's all I want to share. And I will take a selection of what I think are the best ones. So you have to pass my critical eye first. And once I've seen that, I'm going to pass on the top 10 to Kay to have a look through. And then Kay can pick a winner, which I'll announce on stream this week. So my favorite planet, hashtag, and pictures of planets you've landed on in Elite, please. And I will give you a Razer headset. And that's worldwide. So wherever you are in the world, you can take part. And again, this prize is for everybody, so console players and PC players alike. And I guess as well, we should probably give away another earbuds. Bruce, do you reckon? Do you reckon now's about the time?
Yes, that sounds Good to me. I think we'll make it so that anyone can enter the Razer headset as well. So we'll open it up on the forums as well as Twitter and Facebook, so that
of course,
no one is excluded. We'll set all of that up post-stream, so keep an eye out for that, guys.
Yeah.
All right, so should we do another phrase then for the earbuds?
I do, but I want it to be Rocky Icy because it's the planet that's getting a lot of love. So can we do ! Rocky Icy, please? And then we'll pick a winner for the earbuds / goodie bag. When I say goodie bag, I've got like these little water bottles that I can go into the office and get. I'm in the office tomorrow, so if we can get the winners tomorrow, I'll get them all these goodie bags packaged up tomorrow. So I'll have a look and see what swag I can add into these bags and send them out. Because you know what, whilst the boss is away, I will rummage through all the cabinets and find stuff that I'm not supposed to be looking at. So that's what I do when I'm in the office. Cool, right. Back to the questions, because I know time is running on and I don't want to take too much of Kay's time. So I guess we've covered, to make sure I've all my notes here. We've done that one. Okay, two important questions before we move on to the QA segment, and I allow Mr. Bruce to do some speaking, because he's been sitting rather beautifully in the top right-hand corner of my screen. He's moving around, so he's not quite the oil painting he was when we first started, but he was unnervingly still. He has started to move. So two, I guess, quite personal questions around Odyssey. What are you most looking forward to with Odyssey when it comes out, Kay? What are you personally most looking forward to?
Oh, gosh. Well, other than just to harp on about the same answer from a question ages ago, what other people see, what they find of it, stuff that I might not have necessarily come across in the testing, and certainly the screenshots, the streams of people discovering stuff for the first time, spying on you or watching over you, however you imagine it. But
when you say it's fine, Kay, if I was to say it, I think people would be a bit worried. But when you say it's fine.
But yeah, it's
and I guess the last
exploration,
question,
the hiking.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. I've seen the worlds from I mean, yes, you can see them in your SRV, but it is a different perspective in like when you're on foot. It's going to be entirely different. And I guess the last question before I hand over to Mr. Garrido in the top right-hand corner there is, what's the best part about your job, aside from obviously coming on this stream with us? What is the best part of your job, Kay?
Oh God, that's. I wish I had a time to prepare that. I wish I had time to prepare something which wasn't cheesy. Well, who else gets to play with something on this scale, like a big tub of Lego or Meccano, and just being able to build something at the leisure of my computer there, and just making planets. I mean, it's what my focus has been on for many years, amongst the other random stuff. But that's
I mean, it's that. I mean, I generally mean it when I say it. Like, I do look at you all as rock stars, because what you do is way beyond what I have the ability to do, and to see how easily you can talk about it because it just makes sense to you. And I'm just like, this is blowing my mind. I'm listening to you talk about like, oh, we just create sectors and there's planets and planetary bodies, and then we use the math, and I'm like, I can't build like a gingerbread house at Christmas. So this is to hear you talk about it is great. And so yeah, I can understand why that is the best part about your job. So I'm going to stop waffling, and I'm going to hand over to Bruce. So Bruce has been going through the forums, looking at some questions. Now I just want to preface this before we go in. There were a lot of questions in the forum. Not all the questions were about planets and planetary tech, so they weren't all for Kay. So I will try and find the right people to harass and get the answers for you. And any questions we can't ask Kay right now, because of time, I will get the answers for you tomorrow-ish in the forum post QA. So there we go, Bruce. All yours.
Yes, thank you very much, Arthur. Hello, Kay. We haven't really had much of a chance to speak just yet. I was trying to be polite and listen intently as you guys were talking, but I know everyone in the chat has been really enjoying it. I've seen lots of comments of appreciation and fascination around all of this discussion on planetary tech. So before the stream, we did reach out for some questions from the community, and we have pre-selected some of them just to give some further insights. Additionally, I'd like to give a quick shout out actually to my boys behind the scenes. I believe we have Paul and Zach lurking, ready to, firstly supporting the stream, but also ready to collect some live questions. So anyone in the chat, if you have questions for Dr. Kay Ross, post them on the forum thread, which hopefully one of the helpers will post in the chat for us. The forum thread, equally Twitter or Facebook, the threads where we announce the stream will be equally good. We'll have eyes out everywhere, or just in the chat, both on YouTube and Twitch, and we'll pull some of those and try and get to them towards the end. But in the meantime, if I may, I would like to ask some of these questions that we collected already. They'll be in no particular order, so we may be darting around a bit, but I'll just go for it, I suppose. So our first question asks, will large worlds feature tall mountains or geological features? Currently, the larger worlds with high gravity tend to have shallower or flatter craters and mountains.
So that is an interesting question, which is a phrase I say way too often, but there is a reason why the features are shallower on larger planets, and exactly the answer is part of the question. With the increased gravitational strains, that you can't maintain as tall a natural feature with the strength of the material it's made out of. So you will end up with shallower, more flatter features. I'm afraid it's just how the maths drops out for those. So there's a good range of planets, but the tiny ones tend to be able to support the more extreme and spikier terrain because the large things aren't being destroyed by the gravity pulling it all down again.
Right, that makes absolute sense. So it is a question of accuracy rather than we want to have a supergiant planet with an impossibly tall mountain on it. But okay, in that case, I suppose it stands to reason that there will be large geological features, but you're more likely to find them on the planets with lower gravitational pull.
Yes, and there's also the other direction of in how much crustal action, shall we call it? That's a weird phrase. So things like tectonics are something which you tend to find more on worlds going up to around Earth size. When you get larger and larger and larger planet, the tectonics become something less likely to occur unless there's more extreme circumstances going on. And so there's all sorts of gradients, all sorts of curves about what happens where and what range of bodies you're going to find.
Sure, thank you. This question actually popped up a few times, and it hadn't really occurred to me until I'd read it on the forums. But there is a particular interest in this, and the topic is rock scatter. So players are asking how rock scatter may be different in Odyssey, and in particular, sort of how is it determined?
Sorry, I'm seeing a lovely. I'm going to take that as a compliment to that person in chat. You know who you are. So scatter stuff. I've got my eye on you over there. Scatter stuff, that has changed quite a bit. So with Horizons and beyond, the small rocks, yay bigger, so maybe a little larger, and they are placed around the player as they go along. There's not too much logic driving it. It was a CPU-based placement thing. For Odyssey, we have what we call the scatter system. That word scatter again. And what this is doing, it's sending data through another noise graph. The noise graph, the thing I said before, the collection nodes, the maths, which decides what goes where. And now we have essentially different collections of things which are expected on different areas of different types of planet, depending on those resources chosen. So you get a wider range of things being put down in different patterns and different densities, all depending on what should be there. And it's going to make the surface, well, it's more visually interesting, hopefully more interesting to drive around as well and walk around.
Yeah, definitely. Even while playing briefly with Arthur this past week or so, I found myself staring at the ground a lot more than I might in a game normally, just looking at all of the details and the rocks. But I'm a little bit of a level janitor who will inspect every little thing when they play a new game.
I love that term, level janitor.
Yeah,
that is amazing.
But no, I'll inspect everything, and in particular, it was really nice to see that level of detail on the ground. All right. Will atmospheric worlds feature weather effects such as wind and dust?
Okay, so for these first ones coming with Odyssey, I've got to be careful of what I say, really, isn't it? With these things coming with Odyssey, what you will see is certainly some things caused by wind on these thinly atmosphered worlds. So there will be some visible dust moving around, various VFX that the VFX team has set up. That's a lot of words for me saying, yes, there'll be some effects visible on the surface.
Okay.
I think that's good enough. I think that's good enough. Yes is the answer.
How will the new planetary tech affect I don't want to get this wrong, volcanism, and the integration, volcanism, and the integration of volcanic features into the terrain?
Okie dokie. So the royal you, the royal we are familiar with fumaroles and these small-scale volcanism regions like that. Now, we will be using the aforementioned scatter system to ensure that these are placed on volcanic regions or volcanic worlds. So they'll still be there. They'll still be there.
Okay. This one I found especially interesting. So planetary bases and installations, how does the Stellar Forge place them where they are? And there's a follow-up question to this, actually, which I'll reserve until the answer, I suppose. But initially, the question is, how does Stellar Forge place planetary bases? Does it sort of create a level area for them to go down on, or do Frontier have to manually check and place them and adjust their positions?
All of the above. So there's various ways that we place larger settlements or smaller ones on these surfaces of planets. The first ones on the horizon, the outposts and the ports, use a simple radial flattening of an area where we know a port or outpost is going to be, or a little bit of a deviation if they're a crater port. What came later on in horizon for the Thargoid bases, for the ancient sites, the Guardian sites, we use a terrain stamp. So we have an authored resource about this is what the terrain should look like under this point. And then we can tailor what goes where in terms of objects on the level, and also make a little bit of the terrain around it, how it blends in. And yeah, that was the source of the anecdotes about me putting my face on planets every so often during development. It's not there now in the open game.
I want to jump in here. And ask a question, because you just made me think of a question, Kay. Have you or the team ever hidden something? Like, because I even not to see your face, but have you ever gone like, I'm just going to put this here and only I know this is what I've done. This is my little stuff. Have you ever done that?
Well, that would be telling.
I definitely would do it. I would 100% do it. Sorry, I interrupted you, Bruce. Carry on. Sorry.
I wonder if there's a human being alive who could resist the temptation. Right. So.
Sorry. Yes, terrain stamps. I've got a little more information there.
Yes.
If I should continue.
Sorry, Kay.
No, it's I just remembered the train of thought and running after it on the station before it goes forever. Yeah, so there's some changes to that for Odyssey as well. Whereas before, these stamps would only be at one particular level for one spot on a planet. We've expanded it a little bit so that across a stamp itself, there can be variations of the height it's calibrated to. So you can have some more interesting levels made with multiple levels of where things are placed. And yeah, it's just a little bit more interesting. It's been expanded a little bit, made a little bit better for our artists on Odyssey.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. The follow-up to the question regarding settlement placement was that well, this player gives the examples of Cortez and Kraken's Reach, of bases which sit perched spectacularly, is the word they used, on the top of long ridges. And they want to know if bases like these come about randomly, or if some locations are hand-picked for the spectacle.
Okay, so this is maybe the less exciting answer, but there are various sites in Elite where the buildings, the levels have been hand placed to sit on places like that. The majority of sites found procedurally, because not all of them are done by hand, there's far too many. They do look for sensible regions of terrain where one might want to build there because it's stable and flat enough. So whilst they can choose an area which happens to be near a canyon, more of them are a little sensible and not directly on the edge, but the designers like to put in some excitement there, and I agree with them. Those are nice spaces.
Great, thank you very much. That does cover the questions that we had hand-picked, although I have had a few come through from the guys behind the scenes that our lovely audience have asked in real time. I want to pick some out and make sure that they are appropriate. Not that our players would ask anything inappropriate. What I mean by that is something that you would be the right person to cover. So will atmospheric planets have visible poles with different biomes?
Yeah. So this is just reminding me of a long-running internal debate over terminology. And if you can call them biomes, if it's not a biological-based separation. I mean, there are things to discover on planets, I won't say too much. So we've ended up using the term geomes, which I don't know if that is actually accurate or real or not, but we coined the term geomes. And there are, yes, geomes across the planet. There are polar caps where there should be mountain-forming regions and plains and all of the nice stuff.
I love the thought of you guys all sort of having these debates and how smart you all are and debates you're having. With me and Bruce will argue over a packet of crisps, and like you're all sat arguing about like biomes and geomes, and me and Bruce are like, well, what's your favourite? Spring onion should always be in a blue packet, and it should always be in a green packet. That's the sort of arguments me and Bruce have. So
maybe I shouldn't burst the illusion too much, but a lot of my lunchtime conversations were about 80s cartoons.
The best cartoons. You're referring to the best era in cartoon history. Yes, correct. That's fine. And these are debates that only the greatest minds have, Kay. So this is fine.
I mean, I know not to advertise other companies, but even representing here.
Thundercats. That's Lion-O, right? That's Lion-O.
Oh, yeah.
And see, I just and I mean the original Thundercats. I mean the new ones are fun, but they're just not the original Thundercats, which also had one of the greatest theme tunes. I'm derailing a little bit here, but the 80s cartoons, there was just a series of theme tunes that were just incredible. You couldn't move for them; they were all amazing. I'm actually wearing a Ulysses T-shirt, so there you go. So we're all rocking the 80s cartoons. But anyway, sorry, Bruce. Sorry.
Very nice. Ulysses is that a subtle hint, Arthur? Is that a sort of high IQ?
I wish I was
Easter
that
egg.
smart. I wish I was that smart, Bruce.
Okay.
Or am
I? Our next question, actually, this is a nice one. It's personal rather than Odyssey specific. The question is, do you feel more fear about space as you learn about it and come to understand it, or less?
Oh, wow. That's
a deep question.
Wow.
That question. I love it. So what I found at the university, yes, you start learning about, okay, yes, we're on a planet. This is a planet. This is a star. This is how they're formed. This is the scales of them. This is the physics behind it. Then things start going larger and larger, and you start using scales which don't make sense to humans anymore. And especially if you go into particle physics, you use everything in electron volts and giga electron volts, and it becomes hard to humanly envisage, and one can start dissociating, trying to just encapsulate the universe in your mind in these models, and it's somehow so far removed from ourselves and our observations and our tactile interactions with it. So yeah, less scary, more, oh my word, it's indescribable is a bad word to describe something. But that.
Does it still excite you, Kay, space? Does it still, I guess it must do, right, for you to do what you do, but does it still have the same level of excitement that you had, I guess, going into what you do?
I wish I had more time, but still, for reading papers and keeping up to date on things. That's just me and my personal life and whatnot. But the interest is still there. It's just I need an extra 3 days in the week, an extra 6 hours every day.
Yeah, that's fair. Sorry, Bruce.
Great. No, that's fine. I suppose we're running a few minutes over, and obviously we don't want to steal too much more of the lovely Dr. K's time. I'll ask one or two more questions. So this player asked, can you give us an idea of how many variables go into determining a planet?
Wow.
Oh, crikey.
Or is that a question that doesn't actually sort of make sense? Is it answerable?
Too many variables for that answer.
So I'm trying to remember the buffer size of some of the variables sent into the noise graph. Dozens to hundreds, I think. And that's just for controlling the visual differences on the surface.
Wow.
Lots of variables.
Okay. Yeah. So many ingredients.
Yeah, that's a lot.
All right. I suppose I'll pick this as the last question for now then. And anyone whose question didn't get answered, as Arthur mentioned earlier in the stream, we'll follow up with a post on the forums. So this question then might be a little bit underwhelming. I feel like maybe we should have ended on the question about fear of deep space. That's fine. I'll ask this one anyway. Will rings cast shadows on the planets that they encircle?
Oh. Gosh, now I genuinely don't remember if we've
Maybe Sonic players will have to discover by the looks of things.
That's a very good answer.
The answer might be maybe.
Yes.
It's not something I've looked at recently, and I've genuinely forgotten what we've done about that, which is a terrible thing to say on stream amongst thousands of people.
In fact, Kay, look, I've said this before on our streams. I'm all for honesty. Look, at the end of the day, you're dealing with building a galaxy. I think it can be forgiven that you can't remember every single detail when we ask you sort of randomly. But I think for me, having seen the work yourself and your team have done firsthand for Odyssey, as an elite player first and foremost, I am, I guess, a bit like yourself, very excited for players to see what you've done. It's incredible. It generally is incredible. And it's not hype because obviously I work for the company and I say blah, blah, blah. But it is insane what's been done with the Planetary Tech. It's incredible work. And I'm very excited for people to see this and experience it firsthand. I'm equally grateful for the amount of time you've given us this week, Kay, and both yesterday when I was sort of picking your brains about stuff, and then tonight coming on and giving you time and letting us run slightly over and all the prep work and stuff. I think I speak for the chat when we just want to thank you and the team for the amount of hours you're putting in and effort you're putting in to make Odyssey, to get Odyssey over the line and make it as wonderful as what it's going to be. So I guess from before Bruce and I wrap up, I just want to say thank you once more for coming on. If we get some more time in the future, if you get some spare time, we would love to have you come back, Kay. And you're always welcome on the show. But thank you so much.
No, thank you. Thank all of you. And not just you two and everyone behind the scenes, but all of you in the chat as well. I know it's cheesy and everyone always says it, but it's all you lot that make it all possible and allow us to keep driving forwards and make it worth it. So thank all of you.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to flip back to me and Bruce. And Kay, thanks a lot. And I will speak to you in a little bit.
Oh, one last thing.
I nearly pressed the button, Bruce. Bruce,
the
last
possible moments. For anybody in the chat or watching the stream today, Dr. K, if they would like to follow you or are intrigued by yourself and your escapades, where might they keep tabs on everything you get up to?
Right. So yes, I do some personal stuff online, and whilst it's not always the science driven, sometimes it does come up, and it's certainly not a thing for work stuff. I've got to put the warning out. I'm not allowed to talk about work stuff and private stuff. Long answer, but I'm on Twitter as Dr. K. Ross, the same as my username here on Twitch, and I stream on Twitch under Dr. K. Ross. I will type hello in the chat. Hello, it's me. There I am.
That was a good interruption, Bruce. I will forgive you. Normally in our team calls, okay, we call that being Garrido. Just as you're about to leave, Bruce is always the person who just goes, oh, just one more thing, and everyone sort of sighs. But that was a good interruption, Bruce. We'll forgive you for that one. Okay, thanks again, Kay. We're going to jump back to Bruce and I'll speak to you soon, Kay. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
See you soon. It's been a pleasure. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay, Bruce. Well, I really enjoy. Like I always get. I mean it. Like I get starstruck when I speak to any developer because they're just like the work they do is incredible. Now, what we're going to do is I still have a set of earbuds to give away. I haven't forgotten. I know people in chat are probably thinking I'm not seeing chat actually. I can't have too many screens open. But you said you're going to give away 3 and you're only done 2. Well, I'm going to give away the third one now. I'm going to give the third one away now. And again, I want you to put exclamation mark Garrido in the chat. There you go, Garrido in the chat. And one of you will win a set of Odyssey earbuds along with some cool swag that goes with it. Just to recap today's stream, there's a lot that LCK was speaking about. I wanted to give you guys a peek behind the scenes of just how the work that goes on to make not just Odyssey, but just Elite Dangerous tick in general. And like to try and get a grasp of like making changes in a game this vast is no small task. And it takes people with a brain the size of K's to do that sort of work, because it really isn't as easy as flicking a switch and turning it from red to green as such. But it's always great to have some mind share from Kay. We have had Twitch drops running. The show has been running for an hour and 22 minutes since we went live. So as long as you've been here for an hour, or at least 45 minutes, I think, of the show, you would have gained all 3 of the Twitch drops. So you should have those with you. We've given away three goodie bags, which I will hopefully be able to mail out tomorrow, making sure that you, if you're selected as a winner, I guess they email community, Bruce, or will you reach out directly?
We can reach out directly, so keep an eye out on Twitch and YouTube for a message from us. Yes,
there we go. So that is all of that. Any questions we couldn't answer today? I know there was a lot in the forum post. I will do our level best to get as many answers out tomorrow. And some of the questions I'm just going to be, as always, just be honest. Some of the questions weren't necessarily for Kay, so I'll have to go to the relevant people and ask those questions to those. And as you can imagine, they are all very busy people. So the last person they want is me hammering on their door asking them questions. But I will do my best, chat, to go and make a pest of myself and get you those answers as soon as I can. I think, Bruce, is that me? Are we done? Is that us? Are we finished?
I reckon so. Yeah, once again, thanks to Dr. K. Ross for joining us, yourself, Arthur, for hosting and interviewing. I know that was very insightful and exciting for a lot of the, well, hopefully all of the audience. And as well, shout out to Paul and Zach behind the scenes for helping us run the stream as well.
And all the mods. They're always on our streams.
And the mods,
always fighting the good fight for us. Thank you. Now, I'm going to end the stream, but I need to be really clear on this. Because it's me running it, I hadn't downloaded all the assets, so there isn't actually a thanks for watching screen because I'm rubbish. So if I do just goes blank, it's not because I'm being rude and horrible. There will be a raid, so stick around for the raid, who we're going to raid. Yeah, so when we do sign off, it's not being awful. It's just that I forgot to download the thanks for watching screen. And I said prior to this, Stephen would be so proud of me doing all of this. And then I always at the last minute do I get it wrong. But it wouldn't be an Arthur told me stream if something didn't break. So from Bruce and I, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next week, but have a lovely weekend. 07 Commanders, goodbye.
07.